how often have you heard some version of the Liberal Party's got a problem with women? Oh, it's a fundamental problem with women. You hear it all the time from the press gallery because it's one of the lazy narratives to turn around and say, well, of course, there's no way the Liberal Party would ever get another vote from a thinking woman. It's only people who want to take us back to the 1950s. You know, the type of garbage we see all the time. Exception there, of course, a couple of people, including my mate Philip Curry on the right. But you get my point about the overall conversation. And anything they can use to make the narrative seem true, like the big protests out the front of Parliament where the Prime Minister had to come out and demand what he knew and all the rest of it, and was part of the Justice for Women campaign. Remember the wall-to-wall coverage of that protest versus the no coverage of the renewables protest? And even another version of this is going to pop up in the promotion that Channel 2 is putting out there for their three-part show about Malcolm Turnbull's view of the Liberal Party. Did Scott Morrison have a problem with women? Ex-Queensland Premier said she had a call that provided insight. Now, of course, anyone who remembers that period of time knows that the Queensland Premier, regardless of her gender, was saying one thing in National Cabinet and then saying another thing once she got back to the Labor Party strategists who turned around and said, no. This is the person who spent $300 million building the Wellcamp facility as a way of trying again to gin up a fight with the federal government. But the Liberal Party has a problem with women. Here's a completely objective observer, a Labor Party Premier from Queensland who was actively campaigning against a Prime Minister who had done pretty well in 2019 in the rejection of the Shorten agenda, which is now, of course, all being put into place. Now, meantime, there was some attention that was paid to opinion polls today that show that apparently the Prime Minister, Australians completely fine with too little, too late tax cuts, and they have no issues when it comes to lying. However, let's read some of the detail that James Campbell had today in the paper, because it says, since August, Labor's female primary vote has fallen from 35 to 30%, while the Coalition has leapt from 36 to 41%. On a two-party preferred basis, the Coalition now actually leads with women, 51 to 49, which I'm sure has nothing to do, this apparent change in the female fortunes of the Liberal Party or the rejection of the female fortunes from the too little, too late Prime Minister when it comes to each way Albo, that these articles just randomly appeared to remind the women clicking around on the internet when it comes to the news that you're supposed to be a lefty. Remember the problems with women of the Liberal Party? And Peter Dutton, well, he was part of that government, which means you've got problems with him, right? Hence why you get this sort of stuff popping up, which is women are lurching to the left. You see, i.e. if you're not a woman who's lurching to the left, in this case was moving back towards the Coalition, somehow you're out of step with all the other ladies. And then just magically, a couple of days later, this pops up in the Turnbull Times. See what I mean about the media trying to build narrative, not news? If politics is personal, is it any wonder women are becoming more progressive? Because you see, according to them, every single woman is moving to the left, despite the fact that there's polling suggesting the majority are now away from the government, not with the government, which means this garbage gets turned up. It's almost like it's strategic. Remember, I talk about this each and every time. There's stuff that happens, and that's the reporting that is the news. There's the what it means, and that becomes the narrative. There are good guy, bad guy politicians. There are the people who are lovable rogues and the people who are the absolute worst who must be cleansed from the system. Now, one of the ways that the government gets its narrative over its news, now remember, the news, the data, the detail, is that the tax cuts, yes, broken promise, but more importantly, it's too little too late. But where, apart from this program, have you seen the weekly breakdown of those tax cuts? You see, people, of course, they get paid weekly, fortnightly or monthly. So in a place like Dunkley, where the mean income would mean that it is just $14 a week that these tax cuts are going to deliver, you would imagine that the political result of that is, OK, pal, sorry, thanks for firstly lying to us and secondly pretending you can buy me off with just $14. Which is why then you start to get the narrative that to vote Liberal means somehow you're agreeing with the people who have a problem with women. Just keep selling the message. The Dirt Unit that was all about going Dutton personally. When you see a lot of the narrative or analysis pieces that you're going to see out of the wider media in the next little while, it's all about filling back what the Dirt Unit wanted. You see, remember the Dirt Unit said, quote, one source said since losing The Voice, it had been decided that there's going to be a focus on going after Dutton personally. So you see, the left knows that if they can get the noise built up by the narrative, it will drown out the data and news of the data. It's only people who watch this program who say to their friends, hey, you know the tax cut's only $14 a week if you're on $45,000. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I thought I was getting $2,000. No, you're not getting $2,000. You're getting $14 a week. Oh, okay. Oh, and these are the same people who took $1,500 off you last year when cost of living was even worse, meaning all of this is about buying a headline to change the narrative, which sadly is too much of the politics that we have to deal with each and every day. We push back against it every single night, and I'm especially glad you're here on a Sunday.